Lanturn is such a cute Pokemon. Like, look at it, it just looks so happy to be here. It should be pretty happy when it's choosing GCUU, though, because it's kinda insane here. While just a cut below the top Pokemon in the metagame, Lanturn is a very solid Pokemon in GC Unused. It is an anti-metagame Pokemon, one that rose from the depths to punish all the metagame trends that were happening in GC Unused. While its stats are mediocre outside of its HP, it is carried in viability by its incredible typing. Offensive water types like Gyarados, Slowbro, Omastar, and Slowking are commonplace in GC Unused, and Lanturn absolutely dominates them, switching in all day and using rest whenever its HP is low. While its defensive stats aren't spectacular, its extremely high HP make it fairly tanky, particularly on the special side. This makes Lanturn a decent answer to special attackers like Mr. Mime and Haunter, in addition to the water types it dominates. Lanturn is pretty difficult to 2 KO without boosting or using a stab ground type move, making it an effective rest talk user. Rest talk Lanturn is able to stick around for ages and rest up whenever it pleases against a water type. It is a difficult Pokemon to KO and similarly difficult to wall. After switching into a water type, Lanturn is able to fire off some pretty threatening attacks. Its special attack is pretty low, but its stab combination is fantastic. Lanturn uses Surf and Thunder as its stab moves, because with Surf it is most reliable against ground types, and with Thunder it threatens the most damage and paralysis. Electric is an incredible attacking type in GCUU, hitting Pokemon like Gyarados, Scyther, Slowbro, Omastar, and Blastoise super effectively. It complements Thunder with Surf, which hits ground types that are immune to Thunder, like Nidoqueen and Piloswine. This sets Lanturn apart from other electric types, like Ampharos and Magneton, who have to use the weaker, non-stab hidden power water to hit both ground types. Lanturn's stab combination has incredible range, and often hits more than half of the opposing team super effectively. Lanturn is a huge threat into Gyarados and Slowbro offenses, because they are usually mediocre at switching into Lanturn, and Lanturn gets a million opportunities to come in on multiple Pokemon. Offensive teams that use Piloswine as their ground type are particularly fearful of Lanturn, because Piloswine gets outsped and 2 KO'd by Lanturn's Surf. Even offenses with Hypno, one of the better Lanturn switch-ins, have to be careful, because Lanturn has a number of opportunities to come in, isn't directly threatened by Hypno, and which lets it fish for crits and bad sleep talk rolls from Hypno. Lanturn's Thunder also has a 30% paralysis rate, which can ruin Pokemon able to threaten it, like Pinsir. It is a truly annoying Pokemon to handle. Lanturn is able to fit onto many offense and bulky teams, but its most famous use is on Lanturn plus Piloswine teams, with the most consistent one consisting of Lanturn, Piloswine, Jumpluff, Haunter, Blastoise, and Qwilfish. This is one of the most successful GCUU teams ever made, and it makes great use of Lanturn. Lanturn is a near perfect partner for Piloswine, because it beats the water types that beat Piloswine, like Gyarados and Blastoise. Piloswine is then able to beat Pokemon that trouble Lanturn, like Hypno and Ampharos. There are very few Pokemon that can break through the Lanturn plus Piloswine combo, and the few with the ability to are dealt with by Lanturn plus Pylo's teammates. Nidoqueen, for example, can break through Lanturn plus Pylo pretty easily, so Lanturn plus Pylo teams always use Blastoise, the best checked of Nidoqueen. Jumpluff is a decent backup answer to Queen too, and some teams even use Gligar, who hard counters Fire Blast Nidoqueen. So yeah, Lanturn is pretty great in GC Unused. So it might be surprising to learn that I was largely forgotten about for many years. Lanturn's story in GC Unused is pretty similar to Piloswine. It was overlooked for many years, being seen as inconsistent, outclassed, and just kinda mediocre. While it dominated the hell out of the at the time dominant Slowbro, it was unreliable against Nidoqueen compared to other ground types. While modern GC Unused is pretty good territory for Lanturn, the old metagame was a bit more hostile for it. Pokemon that troubled Lanturn, such as Ampharos, Blossom, and Chansey, used to be far more common than they are now. Nidoqueen being the premier ground type, instead of Piloswine, was also bad news for Lanturn, since Nidoqueen is faster than Lanturn, unlike Piloswine, who was slower. Lanturn faced competition with other water types, who weren't weak to ground, and as a result Nidoqueen. Lanturn was never considered bad or anything, but it wasn't great either. Its lower special attack than other electrics, like Ampharos and Magneton, was another thing deterring players from using it. It sat around B tier on the GCU viability rankings and was at one point on the list of Pokemon that could potentially drop to NU. Let me tell you something, Lanturn in GCNU would be similar to the school bully beating up all the little children, because oh my god would Lanturn be broken as hell in GCNU. Anyway, Lanturn continued to be overlooked in GC unused until around the second half of 2021 when it actually started to get use. With how GCU had developed, Lanturn had a seriously good time against this metagame. Piloswine was the premier ground type, Gyarados and Slowbro were all over the place, Pokemon like Bellossom weren't being used much anymore, and a lot of teams were using Rest Hawk Mr. Mime as their special wall, who Lanturn is good at beating. Lanturn had an amazing matchup into all the Gyarados offenses that were being used, since it was difficult to switch into and had multiple mons it could come in on. Lanturn's stab combination of Surf and Thunder just hits so many Pokemon on so many teams, and the few Pokemon that are weak to it have poor special defense, like Granbull and Haunter, so they aren't good answers. This is also around the time that people realised how good Lanturn plus Piloswine was. Now Lanturn still wasn't used much in UUSD2, which was at the end of 2021, but had really come into its own by UUPLX and later UUSD3, tournaments that happened just a few months later, where it saw a lot of use and success. Players had realised how good Lanturn could be, and they were taking advantage of it. Lanturn plus Pylo continued to be great, and Lanturn continued to be used on standard offense and bulky offense teams. It was consistent, it was dangerous, and it was just a great Pokemon. While it didn't completely take over the metagame, like Piloswine, Lanturn had a big effect on GC unused, and the future looks bright for our angular fish friend.